Our company is called My Tamarin, and tamarins are monkeys who parent in family groups to help each other out when children are small. And that's the whole ethos behind our company. Those of you who are parents, if anyone is a parent here, you probably heard that it takes a village to raise a child. But actually this village has disappeared given our lifestyles of today. So we're building a modern village for modern parents. So supporting parents, and one of our first products is a modern childcare.
Cool. We've also got Giovanna, who is the founder of Panoptic Global Solutions, which is a management consulting firm helping organisations stand out and grow in a sustainable environment. And she's also the head of business development at Woken Up, a social network for individuals, non-profits, companies and other platforms that are making a difference. You want to introduce yourself a little bit?
That was a very good intro, actually.
Thank you.
In summary. So I started my business 6 months ago, launched with the idea that I could bring something different to the table in terms of finding solutions and being a bit more, neutral ground for corporates and solutions to be able to discuss how they can collaborate. Having been in an environment where I was always pressured to always say, as I was saying to our amazing founders earlier, I'm the best. I don't think there is such a thing. I think that we can all collaborate and get to a point where we can really make a difference when we work together.
We've also got Jenny, who is the CEO and founder of Digital Voices, which is a YouTube specialist influencer marketing agency in London. And they build powerful YouTube creator campaigns with courageous brands. Do you want to give a little introduction?
Cool. Hey everyone, I'm Jenny. I started Digital Voices just under 3 years ago, but I argue that I spent the first 9 months treating it like a freelancer and being a bit of a fucking idiot. Like, I didn't have an idea of what I wanted to do and said yes to everything, which was really stupid. So just if you're thinking of founding something, don't repeat my mistake. Before then, I was in big organisations and academia. So worked for Google and was at Harvard doing my Master in Middle Eastern Studies. Again, humanitarian work, Syria. Why? Because life's interesting and about learning. So yeah, there's a team of 9 of us in Shoreditch now. So if you want to come out and make adverts that people actually want to watch rather than skip, have a chat.
Oh, thank you. And we've also got with us Rhiannon, founder of TravlTalk, which is a location-based mobile application where users can swipe through travellers in town, plan to meet up, split costs or sell travel items. And she's also the founder of a podcast called Female Disruptor. Do you want to give a little introduction?
Yeah, hi, my name's Rhiannon, and as Abby said, we've got TravlTalk. It's like Tinder for travel. Without the fucking, we say. What happens next is up to you. So you can meet travellers nearby, you can split costs and also sell items you no longer need. We also have a TravlTalk content platform, so I'm a bit anti-influencer when it comes to the travel space. A lot of travel people decided that it would be great to be paid to travel, and we all love that. But for me, I've travelled to 80 countries personally with a backpack, and I did it on $10 a day. And I wouldn't have believed anyone who was like, hey, go to this fancy place and read my content. So we started the Contributor Network. That's a content platform. And we've also done 2 seasons of our Travel Talking podcast. And the podcast Abby mentioned was Female Disruptor. I just really support events like these. I think, everyone on the previous panel, this panel, we're all working our asses off. Sometimes it's pretty tough out there as a woman. I think we'd all agree. Just today had a really interesting moment with a guy friend, actually. Just wanted to mention it. It's like a mate back in Adelaide, and I said, hey, I've built this company up, raised £600,000, and essentially he's like, by the way, if you want to launch into Adelaide, I'll take, 40% of the business and I'll hire 3 mates and we'll take 15% and we'll leave you with 30%. And Adam here is my COO, and he's actually been in the company for a couple of months, and we were just reading this email, like, what on earth is he on? Like, I don't know. Anyway, thank you.
Cool, thank you very much, ladies. So I'm going to start with a question that might be difficult, but where are you now in your business, and where do you want to be at in 5 years' time?
So as I said, we've raised over £650,000. So we're doing Series A, and again, just this morning with investors, like, we usually only invest in Series A, we can introduce you to seed stage investors. And I said, well, if the fact that we don't have a lot of revenue is an indicator of not being Series A, that's a very boring assessment. Like, any 5-year-old can ask how much revenue, how many users. And basically we are at Series A, and we're being used in 50 countries, which is really exciting. And we have 28 contributors, and, I have 5 full-time staff in global offices around the world, and it's a journey. And we're currently in conversations to close £3 million. So that has been pretty phenomenal to go from an idea on a piece of paper in a bedroom to here.
This is going to be hilariously timed. So I have been running the company for 2 years and 9 months. 2 years and 8 months. Still qualify for SCIS. So it's really funny. We are 9 people in Shoreditch, and we're going to hit $1 million in revenue this financial year. I've decided we are, so we are. I'm 29, but I sat with my parents, and they were like, Jenny, do you remember when you were joking and you went, oh, I set that goal, and but don't worry, haha, I'm never going to hit it. You're going to hit it. And I was like, yeah. But I think sometimes you realise things change so quickly. You have no idea where you're going to be in a year. You have no idea where you're going to be in 5. So the point I was going to make is that we're doing this small angel round at the moment. It qualifies for SCIS. We're really lucky. We've proven a revenue model. We've proven we grow at least 400% year on year. And we're only looking for angels who are going to add to a strategic advisory board. I have turned down so many people. I've been in the privileged situation of having lunch with them being like, no, sorry. And they're like, what do you mean I can't give you money? And I'm like, you can't give me money. I don't want your fucking money. I say it in a very polite way, but it's been quite interesting. So in 5 years, the plan is to be to expand to Amsterdam, Singapore, Middle East in the next 2, and then look at the American market for the 3rd year, and then probably sell within 5 years. I know that's the thing you shouldn't say, but we're the only YouTube specialist influence marketing agency in the UK. We're growing super fast. We've got clients in a huge number of different sectors, and I really like that I'll get this to a stage where then I can focus on another challenge. But yeah, I'll probably sell at some juncture by then.
So there was something that Marian said earlier is don't set your goals, don't lower your standards basically. And when I first started 6 months ago, I did set some goals, and I've actually gone past those goals. I'm really happy that the objectives were ambitious, and I've gone beyond that. And I do have objectives for the next year, for the next 2 years, for the next 5 years, and I plan to go way beyond that. How I'm gonna get there, I'm working it out every day. Where I'm at now, much better place than I was 6 months ago when I woke up and cried and I thought, what the hell have I done? Why am I doing this? And now I'm sure, especially after today, that I'm doing the right thing.
When I decided to start this company about 2 years ago, I didn't want to be one of those businesses that just take investors' money and then try to make money. I said, I'm in the business of making money, not spending it. And so before I asked anyone for money, I said, let me prove that I can make it. It was actually on the first day when I launched the webpage, which I built myself and put a little bit of Google marketing money behind, that I got my first paying client. So I thought that was a good sign. We then later won one of the Innovate UK grants. So that grant, combined with the revenues that we were making, allowed us to bootstrap for the first 18 months. We then raised the first angels only round at the beginning of this summer, so about $500,000. And then we got into the Techstars program, which I would highly recommend to anyone who is in the sort of tech startup world. They're an amazing accelerator that really helped us literally accelerate the business, the thinking, the team. And we are now in the process of preparing for the next round. So in terms of what we've accomplished so far, we have over 1,000, 2,000 parents and nannies signed up into our platform who are using our product every day. We're focused on London for now, but the bigger vision is to, one, expand the childcare product that we have now beyond London, beyond the UK. But more importantly, we want to become the parent care sort of umbrella where it's not just childcare, but it's also about mental and physical well-being of parents. It's about education of children. It's about basically how you make the most of your life as a parent. That's our big vision. That's where we want to be in 5, 10, 100 years.
Amazing, thank you. So you're all very accomplished ladies, and you've all done amazing things. I would like to know what are some of the biggest struggles that you've had to deal with on your journey, and how have you overcome them?
My biggest challenge is the lack of sleep. I don't know if you've read the book by Matthew Walker, Why We Sleep. If you have not, I highly recommend it, because I think if there's one thing that you can do for your well-being, is sleep. I think we're all walking around sleep deprived. And so I started realizing how big of a problem that was when I had my first child and almost had a car accident at a 5 p.m. A car was passing by, and I realized a moment after the car passed, right in front of me, that it was a car. So I missed it. I felt like I was drunk. I started doing a bit more research on that, and the research suggests that if you sleep 2 consecutive nights, less than 6 hours a night, you're in a state as if you are when you're legally drunk. So basically, as parents, we walk around drunk all the time. And as entrepreneurs, I think that we only add up to that. There's so much work. There really is so much work. And I think parenting and entrepreneurship are the only jobs that are 24/7 jobs. And therefore are hugely, hugely exhausting, as much as they're also hugely, hugely rewarding. So the biggest challenge is, how do you do everything that you want to do in a time that we all have, which is only so many hours a day. And if there was one thing I could have done differently in my everyday life, I tried to sleep more.
I guess for me the biggest challenge I face right now is finding the best way to deliver the work I do on behalf of my clients, and not finding it not selfish enough, because I represent my clients in essence, and I look for the corporates to meet them. So I'm enabling them to meet each other, and therefore there's a commercial relationship between us. But at the moment, it doesn't feel like it's going to be good enough for long term for me. I'm starting to get itchy about something I want to give birth to. I've given birth to the company, but I don't feel this is it, and hopefully that's not going to be distracting for me. Someone mentioned earlier about staying focused on one thing, and I guess that's the problem with ambition, is that you want more, as long as what you want is good for you and for the rest of what you're trying to achieve. I guess it's a good thing, but at the moment that's the biggest challenge for me.
I never thought I would run a company or be an entrepreneur. I love when people say like, oh, I love freedom, ultimate freedom, like Marine's point. I was in a very structured environment and very used to that, like coming from academia or humanitarian work, and then I was like definitely not looking to have to set my own goals or ever really to be out of that parameter. And then I realised I approach decisions and consider them for so long. And when I suddenly had a company, things like deciding to get my first office in 9 months, we had to get a job. We ran a YouTube campaign for the RAF's, the Royal Air Force's 100th birthday, funded by Rolls-Royce engines. Until we got that job offered, and they were like, we're going to pay you 50 grand for a couple of months, for I think that was for the first 2-3 months. I didn't have an office because I was like, oh, don't need to have that, don't need to justify that. I'd hired someone for 2 days part-time because I spent so long deciding and weighing up every decision that I didn't act. And I think sometimes when you're running a company, you just need to make a decision quickly and you'll deal with it later. You fail fast, you pivot. That was something that was completely alien to my thought process, and now I think I've got much better at. The other thing people talk about a lot is hiring people who are better than you or hiring people who are smarter than you. Everyone's heard Google talk about that. I was like, well, I can't really afford to do that. But actually, I couldn't hire all the people I used to work with. But actually, I've started hiring people who are better at what they do than I do. So I've hired someone who is much better at sales than me. I'm like, thank God you are here, because when I feel awkward, I've passed him on contacts that are my contacts that I could have sold to for the last 2 years, and then he'll close the deal. And I'm like, oh yeah, you're better at this than me. Partly because you should hire people and give them a very strict role, push them to do that, develop their skills in that area, and then you do what you're good at, which, I mean, for me, I hope is the strategic part. But, and yeah. So hire people who are good, give them strict parameters for what their role is. Don't try and like find someone to be your co-founder and do everything. Find someone to do a strict job and then like hand it over, because that was a massive challenge. And since I've done that, it's just so much happier. I actually get sleep. It's really nice, really good. Yeah, that's it.
I definitely echo that, actually. But in terms of challenges, I think they change as you go. So a big challenge for me initially was raising money. And then the more you go through each of these hurdles and you actually knock them down, suddenly, like, what was your biggest challenge 6 to 12 months ago is suddenly something you don't even think about, like, which I think is a really nice moment to show evolution. But yeah, I think scaling up as a sole founder, because I started off as a sole founder, and then so many people told me you need a co-founder. Well, I think they can go get fucked, actually, because, you know, maybe you do, you know, and that is for you to decide. You shouldn't be told that you need one, you know, because I think as long as you are dedicated and you have a clarity around your vision, then you can bring someone on board when the time is right. And as you said, you hire someone who's good at that thing. You don't need a second one of yourself. You've decided to quit your job and found the company. So I think it's really hard for me to say one challenge. It was just at whatever given time I was going through, there became a new challenge, and then suddenly you just knock it out of the park, and then you're like, right, I'll just go on to the next one, and it's cool. Like, after a while, those big challenges are not so big anymore. Yeah.
Amazing, thank you. So two of you have touched on this already, but I would like to know a bit more about how you go about finding a team, and on top of that, how do you find a support network and people who can help you along your journey?
I thought that was a really interesting point earlier that was discussed. The reason why I took the microphone for you is that I was told at the beginning that you shouldn't hire unless you can afford to pay them a full year's salary. And well, that makes sense, because who's going to join your company? And I said, first of all, I don't need anybody. And then someone else said to me, if you start to do every job and you're not sleeping, and you don't have a personal life, then you need to ask someone to join you. But then I realized, what do I have to give them back if I don't have the money to pay for their services? And then I started to look around at how the collaboration works across consultative companies. So it's a little bit more about, within the corporate responsibility world, about how people collaborate. And I started to just ask people, I have this opportunity, or I need this, I have this need, and I can also give you something back. So I started to create a community of people that helped me achieve certain goals without an exchange of money, but I gave something back. And that made it very clear from the onset, when there was never confusion about it, and it's worked out really well. But there are other things within me that make me think, I'm not going to rob someone of an opportunity to get a job working with me, not because I'm awesome or anything, but it's a job opportunity. So I started to look at who are low earners that have started their careers that can offer a lot. So I've actually given jobs to junior designers, to people that have that desire to become entrepreneurs but are at university, or they want to do internship, and offer them what I can. And it's really worked out really well for me.
So on hiring people, I've gone through recruiters, and that was a nightmare. I don't know if anyone in this panel... Yeah, they're so expensive. And often they'll push you to accept someone you don't have necessarily the best gut feeling about, because they want their commission quicker and they want to do less work. Recruiters are really good at selling themselves. I'm sorry if anyone here is a recruiter. I'm sure you're lovely and ethical and wonderful. But yeah, it's a real stress, because you find someone, you hire them, you give them a role, and often I've never had more than 3 months of their salary. Because I think like necessity breeds you working harder. Like, if I think the business is going to fail, or I need to pay someone else's rent, my own rent I'll find a way to do. But if I have to pay someone else's rent, I will sell so much harder. But yeah, I found I only ever had 3 months' salary for people because we were revenue funded. Like I started the company with £500 of my money and that's it. So 2.5 years down the line, like it's very different. And then you end up with a recruiter who you've paid fees to, who you didn't think was that good, and then someone for 3 months who's taken a salary that the recruiter recommended, which was higher than you wanted to pay, and then you've got to get rid of them. So the best people I've hired, to be completely honest, are people I've met at events or people who I've known. And I hate this because I always said I was never going to do anything nepotistic, but actually friends or family friends or people connected to your network are brilliant because they're very loyal. They see how much you work and they're really grateful. And if you reward them, they will be the most loyal staff. So I hired someone I know's friend's brother who dropped out of uni in his first year of graphic design. He was like, I'm paying £9,000 and I don't want to be paying £9,000 a year. Can I learn on the job with you? And he's been with the company for 2 years and he is amazing. He will argue with me, but it's brilliant because he's honest and so argumentative. I love it. And then other like family friends who have come on or people with skills from odd areas. Like everyone we hire has to obsess over YouTube, which makes us really lucky because we can hire loads of young people who spend loads of time watching YouTube. Amazing. But then also, if you meet someone and you think they're brilliant, so there's a woman called Amy Shearer who is the ex-head of influence marketing at Mumsnet. So hugely qualified, has a 5-year-old, is like, I've given up my job so I can work at home. And she's come on board on a like commission-only deal, which is really great, part-time. And it's quite exciting to find someone and be like, right, how can I help harness their talent in a way that works for them? My head of finance has 2 kids and didn't have the confidence to go back into being a qualified accountant, like into full-time work, didn't want to. So we're like, great, you know what, you want to come in a couple of days a month and work from home? Brilliant, that works for us and that works for you. And then again, you're harnessing something that people really want to use these skills and they're so fucking talented and like just let them do it because they're going to be amazing and they're going to reward you so much in lots of different ways.
So in terms of for us resourcing, we've done something that's a bit different. I think like we have a lot of remote workers. So Adam just flew in from Kenya today. He's our COO and he's been working from Kenya for 2 months. My developer's in Islamabad, my CFO's in Vienna. My UX UI team's in Sydney, another developer in Poland, and I'm based in London. And most people go, how does that work? And I'm like, well, it's called Google Hangouts and it's amazing. It's the same as showing up to a meeting room, but basically doing it in front of a laptop, you know? And actually none of the awkwardness, we're all like, does everyone have coffee? Does everyone have water? I don't care if you have water and coffee, get it before you get online and join the call. And then suddenly we're just like majorly productive. And yeah, a lot of investors ask, like, how do you know people are working? And it's like, well, that comes down to hiring people that actually want, you know, that job. They want that role. And again, there's a balance, I think, of needing senior people to assist you at your level and then hiring the right junior people. Sometimes it's great to go to students, but for us travelers, you know, there's a lot of people traveling that have really a lot of experience in jobs that suddenly stopped and just wanted to move around. And I've actually really tapped into that. And I think that is why we are succeeding, that we've already penetrated like 4 markets, you know, simply by having people in those markets. And so you strengthen yourself as you take on people in different places. And then you also, I know this might sound weird, but you don't have to pay tax in the UK, right? If you hire people in different jurisdictions, it's a hell of a saving when it comes to PAYE.
Yeah, so I think people are actually quite a hard part of the startups because what you want is the best people who can, you know, help you deliver the vision that you have. So therefore they have to buy into the vision. Then they also have to work hard in order to help you do that. At the same time, typically, you can't afford to pay them a lot of money. So you have to sell yourself, you have to sell the company in order to attract them. And then you have to keep doing this all the time because there are so many other jobs that they can go to. So when I've made loads of hiring mistakes, and it started with tech. I had no idea how to hire for tech people because I'm not a tech person. but I've learned from that. And the best learning that I've gotten from that experience was that I looked very close to home, literally in my home. And so my father is now a de facto CTO of our company. So that was learning number one. Just like you said, tap into your closest network. That said, I also work with my best friend, and it worked amazingly well for 3 months, and then it didn't. So you have to be a little careful how you do that. Secondly, in terms of tech, I've decided to have an outsourced team, which is not necessarily an outsourced team. It's actually a team that works for us, but just remotely. And they're based in Slovenia, where I'm from, and also where my father lives. So it's easier to manage that. Next thing that I've learned was that the graduates are a very, very good resource and a really good fit for startups. A few reasons for that. Typically, their salaries are affordable, at least at the beginning. They're hungry, and they're smart. And actually, for graduates, I've used recruiters because given the salaries, the fee is actually also quite affordable, and they have a 3-month refund guarantee. So it worked for us. But I am finding it very challenging to hire more senior people. People that can do things better than I can, faster than I can. Because these people are typically quite expensive. And what I'm finding is that they have to be in a certain life stage that allows them to take a salary cut and to work for less than their worth is. So it's challenging, but I think if you just keep going, if you keep reaching to your network, if you keep telling people about you, so other people are telling about your company, then doors open in most unexpected places. Like you said, sometimes at events, you find people that either they are a great person or they lead to someone. So don't give up when it comes to people.
Thank you. Some great answers there. So my next question is a question that I asked the other panel before, but it'd be good to get your perspective from being in a bit longer time. So the question is, what are the skills that you find that you need within yourself to go through this journey? And is there anything that you thought would be important that's not as important?
I think grit and resilience are the most important thing. Like they say, it's true in startups. The highs are much higher than anywhere else, and the lows are much lower than anywhere else, and they come much more frequently than anywhere else. So you're basically in a constant state of yo-yoing from like your high to your low to your high to your low, sometimes in one day a few times. And so you have to learn how to live with that, and then also learn how to live with constant failing. One thing that was said earlier, fail fast and move on, learn and move on, it's a really important thing because that's the only way you can move forward fast enough. And that's something that I had to become comfortable with, that I didn't expect it would be so important, but it is. So instead of trying to be perfect and trying to put out perfect product, actually the rule should be, if you don't feel uncomfortable or you're putting your product in front of other people, you're probably too slow. Not probably, you're for sure too slow. So I'm trying to live in that constant uncomfortable zone, which is very uncomfortable, but I think the only way to move forward. So you basically have to write off perfectionism, period.
I would say discipline, absolutely. I've had to discipline myself to be uncomfortable. I had to discipline myself to be disciplined. I have had to discipline myself to be flexible and to break the rules and do things that I didn't think I could, but other people told me you can. Someone said to me, when I think we had a conversation about how come some consultants are so good and others are not. And someone said to me, if you become one of those people where that others are constantly coming to ask, how do I do this? You're already consulting. And in the week I decided to start, I've had two people, a corporate and a consultant, asked me how I do this. And I had a strange phone call from someone out of the blue, and they said to me, I think you should start consulting. And that day I thought, I'm going to be disciplined in accepting that I might not be ready, but I'm going to go for it. So every day I'm disciplined and accepting, hey, this was wrong, but let's keep moving. It's a discipline, it's a really strong feeling. And if someone said to me, what would you do differently? Accept that there's no such thing as perfect, ever. Even when I say, oh, that was perfect, it wasn't. But it was okay, I survived, so.
Yeah, definitely fail fast, definitely be uncomfortable all the time. I sometimes feel like people are like, how are you doing? And I'm like, so when, have you ever had that feeling where you're riding a motorbike really, really fast down a motorway and you know that like, it's all going great and it's really exciting, but also any tiny mistake could mean you die? And people just look at me like, what are you on? And I'm like, no, I would never touch drugs, but this is how it feels. And they're just like, look at me like I'm mad. Being constantly uncomfortable is really great. The other skill, so this summer I decided I needed more time off my phone. And so I've heard about Pip Jameson does airplane mode Sundays, the founder of the Dots. Love that idea. So if her team want to call her on a Sunday, they have to call her husband and then get through to her. Power play. And apparently they're really nervous to call her husband, so it's great. But I decided I need to be off my phone more, so I need to do hobbies that get me off my phone more. So I learned to dirt bike. That's really a lot of effort because having a dirt bike in London isn't worth it. So don't bother with that one. Driving 4 hours and back to Wales to dirt bike for a day doesn't really work. I learned to surf. I'm really bad at surfing. Again, lots of effort to go and surf. But then I decided to learn to wakeboard in the Thames. It sounds delightful, but literally near the Excel Centre, you can go and wakeboard on a cable from like April to October. And you literally are in the most public part of London, like in the summer, people walk by and you just fail. You like smack on your face. You'll try and do a jump and then you'll just be on the floor in the water. People like taking photos of you failing and you can't have your phone on. So those two things of aeroplane mode and a hobby, so I'm not working all the time, and failing in public really, really helped. So I didn't realise I'd need those skills in my life, but wakeboarding, what do I do? Like psych, I can't do it. Yeah, you got it. He's cool. Yeah, I'm not. But that was difficult. And I think also you always think you're going to need legal or financial skills. I think you can always get advice on those, so listen to good people. The thing I found really, really annoying was everyone will kind of like, especially people who are around you who are maybe a bit more conservative, are like, oh, are you sure you don't want to take that other job? Oh, you sure? My parents, I love them, accountant and lawyer, like lovely but very traditional, very conservative. They're like, Jenny, why are you doing this? You really don't need to. You should just buy a flat. If you went back to Google, you should buy a flat. It's like, no, I don't. And then suddenly when things are going well, all the naysayers kind of stop and they're like, oh, I always knew you could do it. Like, for God's sake. So the resilience is like, don't listen to people. When you feel like you've got something right or you can see the kernels of something growing, try and really stick to it, because that's when people who aren't living it every day and aren't living in your head will all have the best strategic advice. Everyone wants to advise you strategically and loves to get paid for it. You're like, I'm not paying you to do the thinking bit, it's my luxury. But they'll all kind of suggest other paths, and that's when I think you need to be really resilient and being like, thank you very much for your advice. Really appreciate it. But I think I know what I'm doing. I think that resilience is something that I never anticipated I would have to argue about.
Yeah, definitely staying true to your vision and having that true north. Like, a lot of people will be like, oh, have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? Have you thought about my idea that I could wedge into your idea and then I could take all the glory from all the hard work you've done? And I'm like, yeah, surprise, I've thought of that. And there's a reason I didn't do it. So I think there's always people, even investors or, people that say you need a co-founder, like they're trying to change your vision. And something that actually J.K. Rowling said, she always knew what the ending of Harry Potter would be. And I remember thinking years ago, as if, like, come on, like, as if. But I actually respect that now. I think it's probably why she was successful, because she sort of had a vision of what all of this had to look like and didn't deviate away from it. And I think time and time again, there have been instances where I think, oh, maybe I should do that. Or especially when, Top Deck or Kentucky were coming up to me, oh, Flight Centre's interested in your company, it's like, great. So I don't want to be the Flight Centre app. I want to be TravlTalk, the app that one day Flight Centre may get the chance to advertise in if they're lucky. So it's just to be really clear on what you're trying to achieve, what you want out of why you're doing it in the first place, and not, allowing people's ideas to come in. And also with all the sales pitches, I think, whether they are real investors or not, you get LinkedIn every day, like, hey, do you want this? Hey, I can help you with this. Hey, I can do this. And it's hard. Some people, not many cold approaches are genuine, but there are some. And it's just even the really flashy ones, like, hey, we represent this person and they're really good at selling, like, or recruiters or someone. And they're the ones that really upset me because I'm pretty hard these days and I know what to expect and I know how to pick people that are not right. But when people actually get through and try and take your hard-earned cash and sort of steal it, essentially, it really upsets me, especially when they're trying to sell you their vision. So I think the minute you know it's not right or if it looks too good to be true, it usually is.
Someone yesterday sent me 2 videos, one 10 minutes long, one 24 minutes long, critiquing my investment deck and investment teaser.
Oh, wow, they made a video?
Yeah, they made 2 videos, yeah. And the whole thing was like, don't worry, at the end of the videos, I'll talk to you about me, and he wanted to be paid afterwards to give me strategic advice. I mean, I'm going to thank him because there was some interesting stuff in there, but it made me really doubt some of my deck. He was like, oh yeah, your investor deck's 27 pages, including case studies, and some investors will not look at decks with more than 5 slides. And I was like, really? And I checked with the Angel Association and they were like, no, your deck's like a standard length, don't worry about it. But everyone gives you like a lot of advice, so it's kind of trying to work out who are the backseat entrepreneurs.
Just on the deck thing, actually, I just want to say, never listen to anyone who has advice on your deck unless that person has money. Like, I mean, literally, I've showed my deck to, 50 VCs, and you ask each of them, they all have different advice, and you end up maybe right back at the beginning. And now I'm just like, look, they don't even look at the deck. That's the worst thing. Like, even when you've got the perfect deck and they're like, oh, so tell us about your business. It's like, so you didn't open any of the materials that you were sent. So it doesn't matter, and never deliberate over like whether a font's right or whether you need to like put a deck in that particular order. I've really got to the point now when I'm just like, read the deck, and unless you come back to me with really interesting questions, I cannot be bothered pitching to you. It works really well. Like, actually, that was like back forth with this VC, and I was like, that we haven't made a lot of revenue, like, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, they were not making money, and then suddenly they make more money. Like, so headline, we don't make heaps of revenue, but we're doing really well as a business. So I'm calling that out for you. I'll save you the trouble of telling me that I don't have enough revenue. Once you've read my deck and you actually have interesting questions to ask as to how we got here, I'm really happy to answer them, and they like it. They actually like it. So just never, if anyone says, you're going to change your deck around or I'll come back to you, that's a waste of your time. Just like, show me the money.
Okay, one last question, and then maybe we have time for a couple from the audience. So what advice would you give to yourself at the start of your journey?
If it's really keeping you up, you cannot wait to get started, and you will work out along the way. Ask for advice when you're really, really not sure, but listen to your instinct. But definitely listen to your instinct.
Yeah, I think it's important to try. If you believe in something, if you're passionate about something, you have to give it a go. I think you're going to regret more if you don't do it. So just try it, be comfortable with failing, appreciate the learning, and when one door closes, the other one opens. That's how I see it. So with that, you always move forward. There's nothing to lose.
For the first 9 months, I said yes to everything, and it was really stupid. People treat you like crap if you say yes to everything, especially if you're a young woman, because they assume that most young women should work for free. And they'll say things like, oh, my girlfriend does social media, oh, my wife, or oh, my daughter could do our social media. And I'm like, fine. Because I was really silly and I said yes to like running Instagram accounts and running Instagram campaigns and strategy and training. And actually what we're really, really, really good at is YouTube campaigns. I've spent 2 years working with YouTube creators at YouTube. Like, why did I not think that from the beginning? But there's always a pressure to say yes to everything. And as much as I felt like I learned a lot from that 9 months, it also like having to fight over like £500 invoices, literally like, fuck you, fuck these people. If they tell you to work for free, or if they tell you to work in exchange for a desk, that's another thing that I've heard women recommend to young entrepreneurs doing. No, just say no. Be like, I'd rather pay you and I'd rather sell my services. Like, have enough self-respect to say no to things you don't want to do. So that is what I wish I had done, but everything's a learning experience, so don't worry about it. But yeah, that's what I wish.
I would say to myself, you've got more than you might think you have at any point in time after a while of being eroded by investors and people telling you don't have anything. Like, you kind of start the journey at the top of your game, right? Thinking, yes, I've got this industry experience and I have this career experience and I could do it. And then somehow 6 months in, you're like, I hate myself. I don't think I could do anything. Why did I do this? But actually, then you look around, you look at everyone here. They're really accomplished. They had previous careers, and the investors, it's their job to tell you, to like neg you out and say, you don't have this, you don't have this. And just to remember, like, look at your LinkedIn profile sometimes, look at people, look at where you came from, what you're trying to do, realize not everyone has the guts to do it. And that actually sets you apart. And if you don't forget that when you actually are sitting in front of investors trying to close that deal, they can't kind of make you feel inadequate.
Hi, I've got 2 questions, if that's okay. The first one is, with Techstars, did you have a team or co-founder, or did you go as a solo founder? And my second one is, do you feel like investment helped your company, or do you feel like investors kind of came in and tried to guide you and take over?
Okay, so a really good question around Techstars. When they're selecting companies, they say they have 6 criteria. Team, market, traction, idea, in that order. So it's actually really hard to get into Techstars as a solo founder. And I now understand why. Because it's really bloody hard to do it on your own. If you're sort of the only person who feels so passionately about what you're doing, right? But there were two and a half of us like that out of 10 companies. I say 2.5 because there were 3 sole founders on paper, but the third one actually had a very strong executive team around her. Now, I've gotten a lot of advice early on, find a co-founder, and I really wanted to find a co-founder. And the previous startup that I worked on, I worked with a co-founder. It didn't work out. At the beginning of this startup, I worked with someone, and for 3 months, we just didn't move anywhere. And when we decided to part ways, I was finally able to move. So while it's harder, when you're on your own, it's possible to do it on your own. And like they say, the best thing is when you have a co-founder that you can work with. The second best thing is when you can, do it yourself. The third option is that you have a coworker that it's not working out, and that's far, far, far worse than they're working on your own. In terms of taking an investment, so I do think it's really important to find investors that you feel comfortable working with, that you're gonna feel they're gonna be supportive, or at the minimum not destructive. Some angels are really smart, have lots of networks, huge networks, and can help you loads. But some investors just want to play around with your business, and that can be very distracting. That said, it's really hard to say no to money, especially at the beginning when you're really scrambling and you're trying to attract your first 10, 50, 100. So it's a hard and fine balance that you have to draw. But I think, again, with like everything entrepreneurship, you just have to have patience and believe in yourself and believe that you can find the right partners. Either these are co-founders or investors. And yeah, sometimes say no.
With the investment portion, firstly, I wanted to prove I could do it myself. I could generate revenue. I'm really lucky I wasn't starting a tech platform. We're tech-enabled, but not platform business. So I had the flexibility to kind of say no for a long time. And I had a lot of people who had said to me, like, please, when you raise investment, can I be your first port of call? and I knew I didn't want them. So I mentioned it to them, but I also had I had 3 personas of investors that I wanted to hit, because I want them to make a board and I want them to all be useful. So I've been quite strict interviewing people. Like my first investor actually said over lunch, I was like, okay, we've met 3 times now, and every time we meet, I feel like you add something, and I really like your brain. And he was like, are you serious? Have I got through? And I was like, yeah, I actually would like. He was like, I can invest. And I was like, you're the first person I've allowed to invest. And it was, that sounds really weird. I don't mean to be arrogant. It's not arrogance. It's just like, I've done this all by myself, and I really want to bring on the right people who add something to the business. And in the last month, the 2 people who I've got commitments from at the moment have already been so useful. Like, they've sat me down, had dinners, listened to any issue I've had. If I'm having trouble with like a sales structure or a team structure, I call them, and it's great. But again, I know they're getting a very small portion of the company. I think they're going to take about 1% each. And I'm going to have the rest and some of my team. So it's, but also it's the fact I kind of felt like I could say no. And before then, I mean, we've nearly maxed out our overdraft twice. We've been like within £200 of maxing out overdrafts. Like, I lived on like nothing for a year. Like, spent a lot of my savings, but because I knew I wanted to prove it worked first. So if you can get by with loans or struggling, and that sounds really awful, but if you can get by struggling for as long as possible until you're in an empowered position where you don't have to say yes to money, especially as women, like one of my mentors was pinned down in a hotel room by a potential investor and had to like fight him off, push him onto the floor. Like, I don't ever want to have that type of pressure. That's why I left big companies, because I didn't ever want to have to feel beholden to someone like that again, like in a sexual harassment way. So just get to the stage where you can definitely say no, and you don't need to take meetings with people you don't like or don't think you want to work with.
Yeah, don't go to certain pitch events. There's a couple like Paradigm Ventures, and it's like a bunch of well-off men that, and you're the only woman in the room. And imagine when I say, have you tried Tinder before? They're like, no, what's that like? And I'm like, oh my God, wrong pitch. Like, I mean, those are the awkward experiences, but I think you really have to be firm. It is like dating. I think people say that, and like, you want to fall in love, you want to get the right partner, but you also want to know your self-worth. And yeah, really, I had a similar experience with the first person that gave me £30,000 from my SEIS was actually someone who I had worked with previously. It was the head of digital at OMD UK, where I used to work. And I, approached him, and he replied immediately, and then actually said, oh, I could be on your board. And in the end, it was early for me. It was like June, not just gone the one before. And he wanted to sort of ask for a board position as well as investment. And in the end, I sort of said, I don't think I want you on the board, but you can still invest. And I didn't think he'd go for it, and he did. Gave me 30K, which was really cool. It told me that I was onto something. And actually, again, the more you say yes or try and accommodate these people that you think you need to impress, the less they see you as valuable. And I've retained, I was the only person on the board and had over 55% of the company. And, it has left me in a great position now. Like, I do not have to take an investor that we don't like, and everyone who I've got working for me and in the business are people that are my friends through my network. So it's empowering at that moment, not when you're first getting the investment. You just want the money, but think a year and a half later where it sucks if someone's forcing you to take a deal that you actually don't want.